Matt with me today. Matt McCabe is the director and founder of SUBU CONNECT. Matt, you're very welcome.
Thank you for having me, Margaret. I was just reflecting how we first met last April. It was the lovely Shemaine Doyle who introduced us,
She did too.
and
She
yeah,
did.
yeah,
The,
and it's fantastic to be here on your first of 2025 podcasts. Thank you for having me.
no, you're quite welcome. And we've been talking about having this chat for a while because you've
Hmm.
been doing a lot of, a lot of research, a lot of development on what you're working on at the moment, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But first of all, tell me a little bit about yourself, where you're from, your background.
Yeah, thank you, Margaret. Well, if it's not a giveaway already, obviously born and raised in Dublin. Living now in London with my wife and three children. But I guess my background's always been in food, 30 years plus in the food industry. And like a lot of people, at 16, started out in a local kitchen, doing some part time work. Um, got to love the atmosphere and went on to hotel and catering school after that, which was quite a journey in itself. But it led me then to take opportunities to work in Germany, in Dusseldorf, lovely Kilfenora in County Clare, a Vaughan's pub, where we were privileged to win an Egon Rone award at the time, which was fantastic for them. Um, and I guess over the years, then I took my cooking a little bit more seriously. I decided to go back into mainstream cooking, and so went back to Germany, worked in the Hilton in Dusseldorf, took me to Munich and worked with Kafer there, quite a renowned kitchen. And then, as many chefs do, they end up traveling around the world. And I took the opportunity to visit and work in Switzerland, in St. Moritz, which again was another amazing experience. And all that culminated in me landing at the Dorchester Hotel in London. Um, Fantastic place, iconic hotel, 120 chefs in their brigade. So, quite an experience working with many nationalities, great produce, great food, great work ethic. And I guess my passion for food really started to develop there. And I began to understand a lot more about food supply chains, where food came from, the food suppliers, and in the world of procurement.
Mm. Because that's what quite a lot of chefs are actually, and it's only since I kind of got further into the food service end of it, is that actually a lot of the procurement is done by chefs, or they're the decision makers.
Of course, I mean, I
Yeah.
was of the understanding that all chefs bought food, uh, but
Would you believe it? I didn't, coming from a retail background. I
ah,
really like. I thought that it was a group procurement, um, but actually, the more I started talking to people, and then I was like, how do they control the compliance of? But it's different. It's a different model. It's
yeah,
completely different model, and like that's taken me a while even to understand from a rigid procurement place.
mhm,
Oh, how do we get group buying here if one hotel is buying, how do you get any cost effect efficiencies?
yes,
But it's not that way. It's more the quality of the food than the quantity, to be honest. Correct me
yes,
if I'm wrong. It's different. Yeah.
of course, and of course, every chef's taste is different, and every chef's opinion or view on product quality, it can be very different. Um, but that's what makes it quite unique, I think, in the food industry, where it's led by people. People are
Yeah.
so important in the process, and not least our great farmers and producers, manufacturers, but then also those end consumers. Um, I think we heard something last year at Blasnaheran where they describe chefs as the caretakers of food. You know,
Hmm. Yeah.
so they take that wonderful product and put a lot of love and energy into it to present something fantastic to the end consumer or person in the restaurant. So very interesting in that way.
Very interesting. Yeah. And tell me though, like those environments, like you traveled quite a bit. Like so that's quite a lot of travel. A lot of you probably picked up a lot of cultural differences then in the different environments that you worked in. and a very intense environment. How did you like? How did you find all that? Like, what drew you to that, or did you like that at the time? Did you like it?
Yeah, do you know, I think working in hospitality though, you recognize that it's all driven through the people, and I think Irish people were very hospitable, and we're very fortunate that we're quite likable wherever we go, and we're hardworking and hospitable. But I found a cultural difference, even working here in the UK, and then further afield in Germany and Switzerland. A lot of people share the same work ethic, but they may go about it in a slightly different way. And that was probably more evident when I worked in the Middle East, where the approach to work may appear very different, but the focus is very much the same. The cultural differences of attending meetings on time, or how meetings are conducted. It's all subtly different, but nonetheless as productive. And I found working with different cultures enabled me to reflect more on my own behavior and expectation
Okay.
in order to suit the environment in which I was working in. And you can extend that, I guess, to companies or organizations and their culture and values as to how they operate and run. So I guess I found working with different nationalities very enriching, very rewarding, and also very interesting that ultimately we all share the same focus or the same desire for the right outcome. We just maybe go about it in a slightly different way.
Yeah, and I think that's something that only if you've kind of worked internationally or traded internationally that you understand. And it's a good point what you say is the the e- the the point is the same. The work ethic may be the same, but it just comes across in a different way. And I think in what you're currently working on, your experience internationally is highly valuable in what you're trying to bring to Irish food.
Yes. Well, I always say Irish food speaks for itself, and the quality of the produce that we produce on a daily basis, but also the great farmers and producers who sit behind that great product, um, and the government organisations who support them or who lead in underpinning all of that great work with various accreditation certification to showcase that even more on the global stage. Um, but globally, Irish food is very highly regarded in particular sectors, notably dairy, beef, seafood. But even now, even the snacks and chocolate sectors are getting more and more attention because people are recognizing that the raw ingredients that go into these products are all originating from great farms or great suppliers based in Ireland, and I guess produced to the high standards that you'd expect globally, but you don't always see replicated as well as we do.
Yeah, that's quite true because I suppose we would automatically think about dairy and meat from an agri perspective,
Mm.
but there's a lot of prepared consumer goods now are coming up and y- they need to get they need to get a market,
Yeah.
and they mightn't necessarily have to be Irish province based, which gives them more opportunity to get international no matter what country they go into.
Yes.
So it's a good point. Tell me what working in the Middle East was like.
Once in a lifetime, and quite unique opportunity for us as a family at the time because my wife works in hotels. So in
Right,
20,
okay.
yeah, she works in hotels, and it was her who was she was invited out to operate in the Middle East, and as a family we decided to go. Um, and I had this unique opportunity whereby Emirates Flight Catering, we're looking for a person with culinary experience, procurement knowledge, UK public sector experience, which I'd had as I later worked in the House of Lords and Ministry of Justice and other government departments, and German speaking. So everything they were looking for, I seemed to have ready and available. Um, So I was very fortunate to get invited
Mm,
to work as head of sourcing for Emirates Flight Catering in the foods category.
right.
It, team led by Kieran Dowd, uh, largest catering operation in the world, 11,000 chefs producing 250,000 meal trays a day, 82 million meals a year. It's just a phenomenal operation, but also amazingly efficient and resourceful. Catering to Emirates and 120 other airlines from around the world. So quite a very unique space and a hub for the entire airline sector, really, in that region.
That's, and something that not everyone would have here. So it's a very, very individual skill set you have, because somebody coming from hospitality and government sector experience, you wouldn't, very hard to find someone with both of those.
Yeah.
Very hard, so, and that must have been a massive spend you were managing at that time as well, was it? It must have been a huge spend.
Yeah, well, they have in excess of 850 products supplied by 300 plus suppliers, doing 1,000 plus different menu variations. And at the time, during 2016 to 2020, spending anywhere in the region between 250, 300 million US dollars a year on food. Uh,
Wow.
quite
Yeah,
phenomenal spend.
that's quite spend. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was from 2016 to 2020. So tell us then how, where you've come to today and where that experience has brought you now.
Yeah, thank you, Margaret. It's so unique working for Emirates in that we had the great support of Board Bia to source great Irish food products, and we would often come to Ireland to visit Irish food suppliers to see how we could make connections and source more Irish food. Um, but I guess what we experienced as the buying team, and not just in Ireland, globally, was that there was 101 steps you needed to take almost to navigate, that connection and to make that connection work and result in a contract. So I always found that quite an interesting opportunity as opposed to a problem or challenge. So I took that away with me basically in 2020, and I began to think about how I might be able to solve that problem. Um, and so over the few years, I've developed some ideas, but the catalyst came in September 2023. I came across an invitation to the Arab Irish Chamber of Commerce Roundtable in Dublin.
Hmm.
And I was so excited because arguably they were setting out to connect great Irish food companies with Middle Eastern customers in one room. And here was a problem I'd been sort of curating in my head for a few years, and a room full of people, bursting to do the same, make connections, grow business, develop relationships and opportunities. Um, and so I took the invitation to attend, had an amazing event, met some amazing people from across different sectors. But ultimately, I returned to the UK, and the next day, literally, SUBU Connect was born. Um, and SUBU literally stands for supplier buyer, and Connect is literally bringing those two together in order to bridge the gap, I guess, between suppliers and buyers in the global market.
Very good. And you're right, because I suppose, look, in large spends, and like my background is procurement as well, but it can be very, especially for large corporations, it can be very, very heavy administrative and very compliant. And so tell us about Subu Connect anyway. Tell us, like, was it something that was there in the back of the head, or was it something that was the minute you attended that round table, you said, right, I'm just going to do this. This is a problem, so I'm just going to do this. But usually there was probably something mulling there, was there?
Yes, I mean, I'd done an MBA with Manchester University, in between all of that, just to get the brain moving, you know. And we studied what they called multi-sided platforms. Um, and that's literally an Amazon style relationship where you have a supplier on one side and a buyer on the other side, and they connect through this platform. And so technology is nothing I'm super familiar with. But I began to think that could be a vehicle or a gateway to help with the problem I'd experienced in the Middle East and enable to buyers remotely or regionally, globally, to connect directly with suppliers, and to have service providers, what we call service providers, sitting in the middle. I call them the glue, you know, providing all of those intermediary services, including great services like your own, Margaret, you know, consultancy in preparing suppliers for the market and readying them for export, for example. All of these little parts of the puzzle or the dots need to join up. And I guess the attending the Irish Chamber of Commerce, the Arab Irish Chamber of Commerce with Ahmed Yunus, just gave me that springboard and the confidence to say, you know what, I'm going to give this a go because clearly the market is looking for solutions and connections in a more efficient, seamless way. And like you say, it's been bubbling away in the back, and I thought now's probably the time and the opportunity to take that leap of faith, I guess, in the knowledge that there's great people out there like the Chamber of Commerce, like Board Bia, like Enterprise Ireland, and all the great suppliers in that room to help support that journey.
Yeah, and I suppose the 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 export development as well for the Irish producer. But I think one of the big points you made there that I come across a lot is companies could have a great product, but they don't know how to go about selling it out to another, exporting it. It's a huge. It's like it's a it's nearly easier to sell something here locally than to export it because, and a lot of people don't think about the different cultures, the different ways they do business internationally, you know, currency, logistics, distribution, all of these sort of things. You need to have someone prepared
Yeah,
for that journey for it to be financially sustainable and for it to work for the customer on the other side as well. So I think that's a
totally.
huge piece that, like, you can see, anyone can draw up a contract with a volume on it,
Yeah,
and that's just pure procurement and deliver it. But it's the other, it's the relationship management, the category management of it in that country.
yeah, indeed, indeed.
All
Um,
of that sort of stuff is, to the Irish producer, um, yeah, is it's a challenge. It's a challenge.
Hugely. And you're just having the manpower to put the resource into that research and undertaking of learning all of those steps of that journey in order to execute a sale can take anywhere between, you know, 3 months, 6 months, a year, or longer. Um, and I guess, you know, when our mission is to make that a more seamless process and take some of that pain, I guess, out of the process and that friction to make it more accessible. Um, I mean, you know, there's lots of regulations having changed in recent years, lots of strain put on different markets, not least the UK, for example, as Ireland's leading exporter. You know, there's more cost being put in the process. There's more rules and regulations. There's more paperwork to be filled out, and I think suppliers are maybe thinking, is there other sectors or other markets that we could consider entering that might be a little bit more seamless or a little easier? But they're not sure because they've not yet understood the process or understood the, like you said there, the cultural expectation, even perhaps, of those customers.
Yeah. And how do you, I suppose, with your experience in that market and the role you did, so what SUBU Connect is, you're a complete expert in how to do that. because of your experience in procurement with Irish suppliers to the airline. Like it's seamless. So tell us how it works.
Yeah.
Through how it works.
So uh, I guess Margaret, and again, having worked, I guess, as a supplier, or sorry, as a buyer, and then understanding the needs of the supplier, um, when we approach our suppliers, for example, they log into the system, they sign up onto the platform, and then we undertake what we call an onboarding process, and that's a two stage process. So stage one is us getting to know a little bit about you. You know who you are, where you're located, what you specialize in, what your preferences are. You know, are you supplying the home market? Are you exporting? If you are exporting, which markets are you exporting into? How knowledgeable are you of the different markets that you're operating in, and what sort of support might you need moving forward? So we can understand a little bit about your needs. So at that point, we will validate and verify that you are a legal entity operating in a market, so that we can put a name to your category of spend and interest. Stage two of the process is where we scratch a little further and get to know you a little bit more. So we dig a little deeper. We understand more about you as a company, where you come from, what you stand for, who you are, where you're based, your logo, the products you supply, the markets you're interested in, the accreditation that you hold, and the certification that you have. All of these things that set you apart, I guess, from either A, your competition, or make you unique in the sector that you're operating in. So as we go through that process, we call that stage two of the onboarding. You then become what we would classify as SUBU validated or SUBU verified.
Mm-hmm.
And once we hit that marker, that then enables you full access within the platform. And when I say full access within the platform, what that means is that you will be visible to buying entities as a verified SUBU supplier. You will then be contacted to notify you of requests that an airline, for example, might have in the Middle East or the UK. And you'll only get contacted from those airlines or locations that you've expressed interest in supplying or that you're capable of supplying. So we're not supplying you with a number of different opportunities. We're supplying you with real, tangible, achievable, targeted sectors and
Mm-hmm.
customers that you can actively supply. So we will contact you through the platform with that request. You then get the opportunity to submit your proposal. The buyer then has an immediate opportunity to contact you and discuss that requirement in a little bit more detail, or indeed get to know you a little bit more. And then through a very seamless process, you submit your proposal, and then the buyer has the opportunity to accept that proposal, and on acceptance, then award the contract through the platform. It's a 5 step process uh, from start to finish. Um, and in the event, which we find very important, in the event that you're not successful in achieving a piece of business, the buyer then provides feedback as to how you could improve that offer in the future. Again, to enrich that experience, despite not winning a contract, you get the feedback to help improve future submissions.
That's very important, and that doesn't happen enough in the
Yes.
private sector. It happens in the public sector. You will get your breakdown of where you came and whatever. And I think even getting that, because there's a lot of work goes into tendering. There's a lot of work goes into tendering for a piece of business, and I think that feedback piece is that's critical as well all the way through, um, because that's a learning for the food producer. That's a real learning,
Yeah.
and feedback from that buyer who's probably got numerous submissions, and you do, it's like looking at anything, you do kind of, there's a tiering, so being able to help producers for the next time they come in is And submit is excellent. That's really excellent.
No, and thank you, Margaret. And of course, uh, we all know that the motivation of a buyer may be different depending on the product he's buying or the client he's buying for. So you might have a fantastic product at a great price, but maybe they're looking for a different packaging, maybe they're looking for a different standard of quality. It may even be lower on occasion. Maybe your product is over specified and
Mm,
it's actually, you know, so all of that feedback helps you understand where your product is pitching in the market, but it doesn't necessarily mean you've got to change too much because,
yeah.
again, you don't know what's motivating the buyer in order to make those decisions every time.
No, and I suppose the more it's like anything, the more you submit a proposal, or the more you get that feedback, the more you get to know that customer as well and
Yes,
what's important to them. Because especially in another market, like we we might all know what the local the local suppliers here, the local retailers or food service providers may need because we know them,
yes,
but abroad we don't, and we don't know their customers either that well. So that's a real that's a great tool.
yes.
So what did 2024 look like for you? What has that looked like, and what are you bringing into this year? Like what's that been like, the development of the platform and the
No,
customer
that's
base?
great. Great question. Thank you, Margaret. I mean, 2024 is all being about educating ourselves, meeting suppliers, understanding their pain points and challenges, meeting buyers and understanding what they want, from a solution or from a platform, and what expectations they might have of us and also that of the buying entities. Um, and of course, it's involved a lot of travel. So I had great pleasure of meeting yourself in Blasnaharn, which
Oh
was the
yeah, we
highlight.
did. Yeah, that was the first time we met in person. Actually, it was lovely.
That's
Yeah.
right. A real highlight,
Mm.
Blasnaharn. But there's been lots of trips to Ireland. I could do a shout out to Oliver Carty's in Athlone and Otier with Neil Brady, who were the first two customers I met last January, or potential supplying customers in the future. And all of it to gain feedback, all of it to test the model, test the understanding or my understanding of the market, and really just to drum up a lot of interest as to what we're trying to do and trying to achieve, um, whilst also securing investment, Margaret. So, with every business developing a model or developing a platform, you need to fund it. So, working hard to do that. And the great news is that we've managed to secure our funding, and we have a great company in Dublin helping us to build our platform, Minicorp.
Fantastic.
And so we've been working on that very, very hard over the last couple of months. And um, as I mentioned, sharing awareness with potential clients of the future, we've been very fortunate and very lucky to acquire our first two airline partners. One
Oh,
is a
well
known in.
done. Well
Oh,
done.
thank you.
Well done. That's a
It's
big step. Yeah. Well done.
we feel very fortunate. That is Alpha Flight Services based in Sharjah in the Middle East, part of Donata Group. And in the second client is our very own Donata Catering of Ireland, who operate and manage Dublin Airport, Cork, and Shannon. So,
Very good. So I think you may get an awful lot of calls
oh,
after this podcast.
well, I
Well
honestly,
done. Yeah, that's like, I mean, that like, and the airline industry is um like, I think it's a very interesting revenue avenue for a lot of producers. Um and I think probably one maybe that people, it's not the first one they think of, but I think it's definitely one that needs to come to the fore.
it's you know well, Michael and the team there in Donata Ireland's doing a fantastic job. But like every operation, always looking to do things more efficiently, more seamlessly, reaching out into the market to meet great new suppliers. And you mention it, I think the airline sector is an untapped
Mm,
opportunity.
yeah.
Um, the figures suggest $1 trillion market. Passenger numbers in 2024 were 4.9 billion across the globe. set to double in 2034 to 9.4 billion passengers flying in and around, 195 countries, 40 million flights a year. Phenomenal market. And I guess I often look through the lens of an airline is really interesting proposition or value proposition for suppliers where, and you and I have done the same, where you're sitting on a flight and you're looking forward to your meal and your meal comes and you've got some great products. You know, Irish examples would be Kyo's crisps, Kilo in yogurt, Broderick's chocolates, and you
Yeah.
sit there and for the entire hour or 8 hours, 9 hours if you're going off to the US, you're just studying this packaging, and you're understanding where the product comes from, who's producing it, the ingredients, and you're tasting it, you know. And I know it's an airline experience and the taste, which people debate as to whether, how that's tasting, but you're getting a real experience. And in the best scenarios, you're taking away a memorable experience whereby next week when you go to the supermarket, you might look out for those crisps or those chocolate bars or that yogurt that you had online. So I think it's an amazing sector. I think the opportunity for Irish food suppliers to consider the airline sector as a viable supply option, I think is fantastic. And I know firsthand from speaking to the airlines and these two amazing new customers of our clients of SUBU is that they're constantly on the lookout for new and exciting products to excite their passengers. So there's real opportunity, and hopefully in the next 3 to 6 months I'll be able to share a lot more of those through our collaboration and through our relationship.
I Congratulations. I believe that's that's a significant to the two clients, and it will interest a lot of food companies um, to have them on board, because getting access to these buyers is not easy. And another thing you said there about the experience when you're actually traveling, and I think sometimes, especially say if I travel for work, I find that I get a it's my downtime on the
Mm,
plane. And
yeah,
when I
yeah,
traveled a lot internationally, I found that because when I got off that plane, often I had to just go straight to meetings, and that just was the way it was. Like, you were just constantly, you were working. But when you were on that plane, and I used to love the long haul,
yeah,
where you'd be just so excited to see what you were going to get for dinner,
yeah,
and what was going to come in the little pots that were going to come with your dinner. Like, I mean, like, I just think it was because there's nothing else around you, and you can't do anything else
yeah,
really. You're very focused on what you get to eat.
exactly.
That's me personally now. I think then when you see an Irish product, it actually makes you very proud to say you could be halfway across the world, and this is in front of you. This product is in front of you. So that gives us great pride in what we can produce here. And I think we need to see more Irish products on international flights. More Irish products. So it's a great platform. Like, I have to say, it's and the success of it is that you yourself have experienced this. You've ran a sourcing team in an air, so you know exactly what needs to happen here.
Yeah, well, I guess there'll always be those things that I don't know moving forward, but I feel like I've got a fairly good understanding as to what motivates the buyers
Mm,
to source from Ireland in particular, and also from a chef's perspective, what they're wanting to taste. And we talked there about the sort of retail type products where there's packaging with branding and more detail.
mm,
We also have the great products hidden or the ingredients hidden within the main course or the dessert. Like fantastic butters or creams, and then our poultry, beef, and seafood. So
mm,
again, what I've recognized as well, like a lot of businesses, is if it works well for, let's say, Donata Ireland in Ireland, what's to say it can't work for the same, company we're operating out of different countries? So there's opportunities for those companies to work beyond the market of Ireland and look into other markets working with the same customer, being the airlines.
Exactly. Being
Yeah.
the airline. Yeah, yeah. And that's where volume comes, because I think the most profitable option is to be able to get volume. And I mean, when you think about the number of passengers, you know, Dublin Airport can't even accommodate the number of passengers coming in and out of it. Like, and that's a high concern. That's a real concern. So there's a huge, huge need here, and I think
Yes.
that's something that we'll be discussing at the forum in March as well, is the opportunity to supply into the airlines. Joe Harvey will be joining us, who currently
Great
does some
addition to the
business
team there.
development, yeah, for Delhi Lights, who are all on the Aer Lingus flights. And, so that learning for other companies is that, oh God, I could actually do that. Yeah, I could think of doing that. I think it's just getting the juices flowing as such.
Yes.
The juice is flowing.
Yeah. I mean, I hope Dan won't mind me saying, but the head chef at Donata Catering in Dublin, the executive head chef there, he's producing 4,000 tray sets every day. 300 business class meals, first class meals. He's always looking for great quality product. And, chefs are insatiable when it comes to quality and variety. So, they're really on the lookout for new and innovative products, but also exciting and tasty products as well.
Exactly, because it has to be tasty. Because actually, people nearly choose an airline by actually the experience that they get on it. And
Exactly.
food is not just a necessity anymore; it's an experience. Whether you're actually in the air, or whether you're in a restaurant, or no matter, it's an experience. It is.
Oh, of course. And the wonderful thing I find airlines are doing slowly as well is they're actually celebrating the relationship with the producer, supplier, grower on their menus, which is even
Yeah.
more exciting. So
That, yeah, very good point, because I suppose the 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 restaurants have been doing it, the retail have been doing it, so now, yeah, yeah, it's important to celebrate and collaborate with the producer, because
that's right.
that gains their brand as well. So, what does it look on the the producer side then? Have you many producers signed up, or case studies done to see what that works like, or the flow through?
Yeah, no, thank you, Margaret. And I guess part of the case study process is actually on building our platform, um, testing that proof of concept, getting feedback from the market as to what's working well and what could be improved. But also for me, working with our clients, like Donata in Ireland's example, to build a pipeline of opportunity for the future. So what's really exciting over the next 3 months is we're going to complete the build of that platform
Hmm.
whilst also recognizing the needs of our airline client. That will then identify what products they require moving into 2025 and 2026. And that will enable us through our marketing and sales drive to actually proactively go out to market to our 1,001 fantastic Irish suppliers to say, this is what our airline customers are looking for in June, July, August, September. Here's a platform or a gateway to have access to those opportunities. And now there's the chance to sign up and have your company registered to receive the interest or to receive the notification once those tenders are launched later in the year. So we have a database of over 1,000 suppliers in the market, but we've not yet had the opportunity to entice them with a pipeline. So now in the next three
Brilliant.
months, I want to be able to present to them what that pipeline might look like in order for them to validate that opportunity to sign up, populate their company profile, and take part in the process.
Very good. So you're on the, and is there like, is there, what way does the costing of the platform work? Does it, is it subscription, or what can food producers expect?
Great question, Margaret. And initially, our platform was subscription based, and a lot of the people I interviewed last year will pay testament to that. Um, but as it's unproven, it was almost very challenging to charge somebody something for something that you've not tested.
Yeah. Mhm.
So, and we all know the margins in the food industry are very slim. So I took away that feedback. And what we've designed now is it's free access on the platform for suppliers, buyers, and service providers. And suppliers or service providers who provide services to either supplier or buyer, on award of a contract, pay a small proportion or a small fee, success fee, on winning that business. If you don't win the business, you don't pay a fee, and you're given the feedback to secure future business. So it's a small success fee for suppliers and service providers, agreed upfront, and then for buyers, it's free access and no charge. And effectively, the more they use the platform and the more tenders they put out to the suppliers, the more access they get to market data, analytics, and other information and services that our platform can provide.
Very good. Yeah. So it's actually a no-brainer to register and join.
But we're hopeful that the model will land as well as we think it should. It's, you only pay the small fee if you're successful winning the business. And like all of these, uh, we're dependent on economies of scale. So the more suppliers you have, the more opportunities you can present buyers. The more opportunities the buyers have, the more buyers might be enticed to operate on the platform. And so you get that network effect whereby people see the value, and suppliers are winning business and buyers are getting either great quality, great price, great availability, or all three in the best scenario. And also, critically, I would say it's not just the airlines. I mean, at the moment, we're very fortunate to have two airlines believe in our vision or mission for the future. We would like to be inviting hotel groups, restaurateurs, retailers onto the platform in order to source their products. So
Yeah.
you get that multi-sector opportunity as a supplier to supply different organizations or companies moving in different sectors.
Fantastic. So it's open to all areas. So that's, you see, you have there's going to be different opportunities for any food and drink producer,
Yes,
whatever
so
avenue they want to go into.
yeah, so food, non-alcoholic beverages, so water and juice,
Hmm.
and teas and coffees and things like that.
Okay.
Um, and then in the future, looking at non-food categories such as packaging, and other cardboards and plastics and all various food-related items. But to begin with, food and non-alcoholic beverages is our focus. We feel that's a healthy market in which to be tackling first, and
Yeah.
then we'll see where we land in the future.
And what are you seeing currently in the food industry in Ireland, that, or what are you hearing from producers that might feel, because the export prospects was released during the week there, and I think that the turnover is up slightly, but the thing, I suppose, and I haven't gone into the detail of it yet, I didn't get a
Mm,
chance, but the cost of goods is still extremely high. So it feels like the volumes are still slow to move, but costs are high. So
yeah.
what are you hearing on the ground that you might deter a company from maybe entering a market or going for a certain piece of business?
Yeah, and again, so yeah, optimism. I read the word optimism for 2025, which I thought was interesting, given that last year it slightly increased. And I think we have to remain optimistic because I think Ireland's got great food produce, and it speaks for itself. And there's markets out there showing double-digit growth, like in the Middle East, year on year. Um, but what I found really interesting was that our model was set about Irish food suppliers exporting into the Middle East. That was our proof of concept. And then speaking to suppliers and buyers, they're wanting to work in the export market, but if they can sell the same volume of product at the same or similar price locally, they're very much open to staying local as much as possible. And even our airline customers are saying, why are we having to import so much product when we can surely buy it within our own regions or our own counties? So we thought the home market supply would be year three of our evolution of SUBU Connect, but we've been asked to source Irish products home from the home market this year. So that surprised me. And it excited me also for Irish food suppliers who are operating in the home sector market, because suddenly there's a customer here who wants to work with you. And if you are experiencing excessive costs in exportation, for example, in your target market or your current market into the UK, for example, that is probably fairly static in its growth. It's not growing much bigger. In fact, it's probably you reducing quite a bit. There's a different market sector on your doorstep to consider, whilst not having to increase costs necessarily, or at least to offset your costs. You can get the same margin because the market's willing to pay it.
I think the focus on the reduction of carbon emissions,
Yeah,
and especially probably for the airline sector, well, for all sectors, but that probably is bringing that local supply chain piece back home. It really is, and that's where the mission of the trade forum is to bring the buyers out to meet the Irish producers where they possibly could get that product, and just basically have informal networking chats about how to get maybe something started. Um, so I think there's going to be a lot more focus. I agree with you. I think there'll be a lot more focus on that, um, from sourcing locally.
mm,
And I think the Irish food and drink producer needs to be geared up on how that's scalable,
yeah,
because a lot of producers may and like what happens to any company when they start to grow, the next thing they're they don't have the capacity.
yeah,
And this is what you can go out and get the sale, but you mightn't have the capacity, so that they go in tandem. So I suppose there's a lot of support there required for the Irish food and drink producer to see this need coming, because you're right, it is because there's more of a focus on buying local, not just at not just at food markets anymore, like
no,
there was during it's more now on a commercial basis. There's more of a focus on it, which is a very good point. Very good point. And it's fantastic to see that you are seeing that coming through as well.
yeah, and I'm even seeing it in the job titles for procurement managers now, where it's head of procurement and sustainability,
It is, yeah.
and that says a lot.
Yeah, yeah, it is. Because if you're in procurement now and you're not buying sustainable products, you're not doing a job. It's no longer, oh sure, let's load that up and bring it in. It's not like that anymore. And I think that's where procurement and sustainability, i there has to be responsible sourcing. And if you don't, your sustainability strategy is it's done for from the start. No matter how much measurement you make of your water and your energy and
Yeah,
being in operationally sustainable, but you need to have a source that's actually working on the same platform as you from a sustainability basis, and that's what a good procurement person does.
yeah,
So it's changed. Procurement has changed. It's not the same as, like, there's much more of a focus on it now. You can't be, as I call it, trading and ducking and diving, doing a del boy in it. Like,
yeah, yeah,
them days are gone. Them days are gone.
yeah.
So yeah, very good point. So what are you looking forward to in 2025? I'm hoping I'm going to see you in a couple of months
Oh,
anyway.
of course. I mean, it goes without saying, March in Nace is in the calendar.
Brilliant. Fantastic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Really
Brilliant.
looking forward to that. And I think the privilege of doing this job, although we're pre-revenue and we're on the journey, it's working with the people and meeting the people. So 2025, I hope to get out a lot more, meet a lot more people. But Certainly in March, I'll be down in Nice to see you and all the team and the great panelists you have. Um, we are launching our new website at the end of this month, so that
Okay.
will give you far more information and insight into our plans and what we're trying to do. You'll also have the opportunity there to sign up to our newsletter and also sign up to the platform so that as we start to understand our opportunities in the future, you will get notified. So that's very exciting. Obviously, undertaking our case studies, working with the NASA Catering Ireland in the Ireland sector and Alpha Flight Services in Sharjah in the Middle East. Um, Also, growing our team. We're a small but perfectly formed team of 4 people, which I'm very proud of given where we are in our
Mm,
journey. But this year, we're going to look to bolster that team up even more. We have trips to Gulf Food organised in February for the world's largest
brilliant.
food fair. We have a trip to Saudi Arabia in April, and we've been invited out there. And in a whole host of activities, and not least Blasting the Heron, I'm looking forward to again this year. I know it's in October and it's a long way away, but still,
Oh,
uh,
it's a brilliant event,
yes,
and really well run by Artie and Fallon. Fantastic. You know,
exactly, yeah.
it was a great networking as well last October. Like we all, like I went down the year before and I didn't really know anyone, and sure this year every corner I turned I met like so. It's a real community. It just shows you it's a community of
Oh,
people.
I could, yeah,
Yeah.
I could, Cara Murphy,
Oh,
Annie
Carrie, yeah,
Dunn,
yeah.
a whole list of people there. Charmaine Doyle, fantastic network. And
Mm,
what I also appreciate is how people afford the time to have a chat, but also, uh, as you've done, afforded me here today, is the opportunity, I guess, Margaret, to create that synergy amongst the people involved in the food industry to support our suppliers and growers and those people looking to grow their businesses and nurture their business and keep it running the best they can, and
exactly.
whilst also offering buyers great choice in the market. So yeah, 2025 is going to be quite a year, I feel,
Brilliant.
and it
And
started off fantastically well. Thank you.
where can people get a hold of you? So we'll put your email and the website details if you have them on the bottom of the details of this podcast so people can get a
Yes.
hold of you.
Yep, certainly. They can set up a meeting with me if they'd like, a short little chat to get to know each other a little bit more. I can share more about our journey and the process. And also on the website, you can reach out via the current website in Let's Connect. And also in the new website, you can sign up to our newsletter and for further information on the platform as we move forward.
Fantastic, Matt. Matt, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on today. You've shared so much information, and I wish you really the best of well on the growth of SUBU Connect. And we'll see you in March.
Oh, lovely. Margaret, thank you so much. Really appreciated it. Lovely
Thank,
being here today, and wish you two a great 2025. And I look forward to seeing you two in March.
thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
No,
Oh,
that was really good. Yeah, it
oh,
was really good. Yeah, really
oh,
good.
great, Mark.
Yeah,
Thank
really
you.
good. I think you're very clear speaker. Really clear speaker.